Yeah, we'll give it another minute or two, wait for everybody else to log on and open up. So give us a minute, but thank you all for joining and we'll kick off in a minute or two. All right. Thank you all for joining. I'll give folks one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so with that, we will go ahead and kick off. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or early afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Happy to have you all join us today. So first, I want to do a few housekeeping notes. First, please make sure that your microphone is on mute. If you do have questions, feel free to pop those in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end of this session. So feel free to either hold your questions, type them in the chat, and we can get to them a bit later. And please engage, enjoy, settle in, get a drink of water, coffee, snacks, whatever you'd like. And you are not required to put your camera on. In the end, if you'd like to, you are more than welcome. We're happy to see everyone's faces in real time, but always happy to have you guys. And with that, we are recording. If you would like to see the recap of this, it will be posted on Prosperity Now's YouTube channel. And at your request, if you'd like to get a copy of the PowerPoint, feel free to let us know and contact us after, but all of this will be available for you to review or share or send, whatever you'd like. But with that, I will hop off camera and give you the mic. Thanks, Ebony.
Yes, thank you, Joelle. So, hello, everyone. My name is Ebony White, Senior Director of Programs at Prosperity Now. Again, so happy to have you all with us today and to know that you are interested in potentially partnering with us. So if you are passionate about being a pioneer and looking at some innovative strategies to enable small businesses to foster, a thriving work culture and make significant impact in their communities, you are in the right place. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started and discuss a little bit about what we have planned for you today. So we are going to do a quick welcome and overview. I'm going to talk a little bit about PN for Prosperity Now, for those who are not familiar with us, as well as an overview of this initiative, discuss a little bit around why advancing good jobs is important. And then we're also going to, of course, get into the nitty-gritty and talk a little bit more about the participant criteria for this Good Jobs Learning Collaborative, as well as discuss requirements, expectations, and answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in because we do have a lot to get through. And so, for those who are not familiar with Prosperity Now, we envision an economy that is just, fair, and free from structural racism, one where every person, family, and community has the power to build sustainable wealth and prosperity. And our mission is to drive economic opportunity for all, build equitable economic power. We wanted to create some impactful systemic change by centering those who have been historically excluded, amplifying community-rooted solutions, and energizing them through research, advocacy, policy, and narrative change. So what does that mean? What does success look like for us? It's an economy that is just, fair, and free. We want to look to discover ways to transform America's economic system so that intergeneration, low to middle income, and BIPOC households have greater opportunity of success to build sustainable prosperity by 2050. And the ways in which we are currently looking to address these things is through three pathways: to increase home ownership rates, to increase the number of businesses, not only from creation, but really growing to scale them. We know that there are high rates of turnover in terms of small businesses, but we also want to increase the network of BIPOC and low to moderate income households. And how do we do these things? And so we work deeply with grassroots. We partner with local nonprofits who are close to the work, who are really looking to advance racial and ethnic economic justice by investing in them, by working with them to think of innovative around how to position them to drive systems change. So we convene, we mobilize, which is our movement building. We equip them for some advocacy and policy progress. We work to inform them around how to think about designing programs and solutions that's human-centered and that's data-driven. And we want to build the capacity not only of their programs, but also their leaders as well as their organizational infrastructures. And so really trying to think about how we can strengthen them internally and externally. And we also use our platform to influence other partners, to influence other stakeholders to be able to partner and invest in them, to also be able to increase the level of resources that they are receiving. And this is where, this project really come into play. So we work with partners and those on the ground to design, pilot, test, and amplify solutions for adoption and scale. And of course, lifting up the voices of our folks and wanting to showcase that the partners that we work with are they are solutioners and they are experts in this space, and they should be giving that cadence. And so now we're going to move into this specific project. And so this is around the Good Jobs Collaborative Network. And so one of the things that we noticed is that there is an increasingly recognized prevalence of persistent economic hardship among working Americans. And we also know that there has been a range of diverse stakeholders who have developed and tested promising tools, approaches, and pilots to really think about what does advancing job quality mean. Workers primarily, historically, I would say, have relied on three pathways. They relied on organized labor, government policies and protections, and really like the shifts to business policies and norms. And so really trying to lean on those as ways to improve their economic livelihoods and to have a voice within the workforce sector. However, we also know that due to some political shifts and other nuances, these things are not enough. And they also don't have the same power as they used to have. And so, especially when we are thinking about the pandemic, it heightened public awareness of the experience of frontline workers in a historically tight labor market that was motivating businesses to seek new talent attractions, think about retention, think about what does work-life balance means, what does it mean to have flexibility. And so conversations about business value of good jobs have really taken the center stage. And so given some of the work that some of our stakeholders have already done around really thinking about this and putting out some tools, we know that SMBs, especially BIPOC employers that are, you know, really thinking about this, they want to do these things. They're excited about these things, but we also know that it has been proven particularly challenging to facilitate job quality improvements at scale, especially among small business owners, and especially those that disproportionately employ BIPOC and women of colors. And so we definitely want to figure out how to be able to address these barriers. Also understanding that these employers themselves have also, they're experiencing barriers to capital and resources as well. And so when we're thinking about solutions, we're thinking about system change. We're thinking about solutions rooted in local communities. And really, how can we work with direct service providers, business owners, employees on the ground that's really looking at human-centered insights to generate and design these ideas and to really think about, okay, what are the gaps? What are the conditions in our communities to help us to be able to realize and create a system that would be able to allow businesses to go on their good jobs journey in a way where they're supported. And we also want to be able to figure out ways to really test, amplify, and scale the good work that's already been done, as well as we get learnings throughout this initiative to be able to really get it out and shift the narrative, shift some of the business cases studies, for example, that you are seeing around what does good jobs really mean and what does it look like for a small to medium-sized company. And so when it comes to our vision, the vision of the network is to align stakeholders behind common good standards that can drive economic mobility for low income people of color, women. And I will say, this is a collaborative that is focused around SMB serving institutions. And so definitely realizing the role that you play as well is very important to us. We believe that SMBs play a pivotal role in enriching lives and fostering communities through the creation of good jobs. But we also believe that the trusted SMB serving institutions play a key role in championing and providing resources and trainings that enable businesses to scale and demonstrate that quality employment is just not beneficial, but it's also vital for their own business success. And so with that, we do have a few objectives. The objectives are to learn which levers will help us to scale and influence job quality. It's also to look at public-private procurement, financing for SMBs, and other incentives. So really understanding what are the levers that will give us the most influence that we are, seeking to have and to be able to scale this work. We also want to know what are the conditions that will enable businesses to implement job quality practices, and what are the influence strategies that are identified to shift narratives and to demonstrate a prototype ready to test at scale. And so again, we do have a lot of good work that's already been done that we're going to build from. So that's the exciting part. We're not starting from scratch. We actually have some really good tools that we will be utilizing within this initiative. So what do we mean by good jobs? So good jobs, is really the way that we're looking at this is looking at economic stability, economic mobility, equity, respect, and voice. And so when we're thinking about economic stability, we're looking at quality pay, we're looking at sufficient benefits, fair, reliable scheduling. We're looking at safe, healthy, and accessible working conditions. We're looking at, are there clear, equitable hiring and advancement pathways? Do they have training opportunities? Is there a correlation between economic stability, mobility, and wealth building? And do they have a voice? Do they feel supported? And do their policies represent their values, the ability to improve the workplace, such as through collective action. So really, again, do they have a voice? And so one of the things that, I think is important to note here is that we understand that small to business size businesses may not be able to do all these things at once, especially our smaller businesses. However, we do have some tools and some ways of how we're thinking about this, where we want to be able to help people to not only understand which one of these job practices has the most impact on the target group we're talking about, but also to be able to just see what does the journey look like for them? How can you consider doing this in phases? What are the policies that have been successful in this space to help businesses, and how was they operationalized? And so we're definitely not going into the same, you need to do all these things right now, because that's not realistic, given the fact that we already know that there are definitely some resources and capital, barriers that folks have to think about. But this is definitely something that I think is very important for us to consider as we're thinking about what does good jobs mean. And we're also hoping that whoever participates in this not only think about this for their clients, but also think about it for them internally as well. Um, I just seen something, and so I'm not sure. I feel like I missed a slide. I apologize, but I'm missing something. Yeah, there are some slides missing here. Okay. We have some slides missing, but that is okay. I will adjust. So one of the things that I want to make sure is said that this is something that Prosperity Now is not doing alone. We are part of an anchor partnership that is being supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and our partners with this initiative is the Families Worker Fund, as well as the Pacific Community Ventures, both bringing a wealth of expertise and thought insight into this. And so just want to make sure that they are acknowledged, because they are definitely partners throughout this whole process. When we share the slides for those who are interested, I will definitely update that so you have more information around our partners and just the level of expertise that they're bringing. I will say Pacific Community Ventures, they do have a lot of tools, and specifically tools that offer insight around what does it mean to be a SMB serving intermediary as a CDFI themselves, as well as focusing on low to moderate income communities, as well as thinking about those who are Black and Brown led. The Families Worker Fund, they are definitely bringing a lot of wealth and expertise around procurement, as well as bringing in the philanthropic and business side to really help us to think about some of the influences that they can do and how they can play a role within this, as we're thinking about messaging strategies and ways to be able to build up partnerships within this initiative. And so thank you. I just definitely want to thank you all for your partnership in this work. And so with that, I'm going to actually pass it over to my colleague, Joelle, who's going to talk a little bit more in depth about the Learning Collaborative.
Thank you. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Joelle. I'm the Senior Program Manager with our Racial Economic Justice team, and happy to talk about a little bit more about the application of this. So next slide, please. In this collaborative, it will begin and launch next month in April and go all the way until September 2025 of next year. So during this cohort engagement, we'll be working to implement and test and get your feedback on some of the existing resources that Ebony previously mentioned from PCV and some other public goods that we'll be lifting up. And our goal is to update them based on your key learnings, your experience, and the pilot, and adapt these into selected strategies that we're uplifting as a way to catapult economic mobility. This pilot is using specific strategies. Oh, you can go back to the next slide. The pilot with these strategies is to support the recruitment of your SMB partners, which will run concurrently in a separate co-learning experience on worker voice. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. As a part of this engagement and factors, we will carefully consider and be tracking some of these key learnings through evaluation and research and addressing key job quality principles and how they're adapted through your pilot experience. We'll gather and update these tools and strategies to ultimately disseminate them and share them out at the end through webinars, case studies, trainings, and a job quality playbook that you will help us collectively put together. Next slide, please. So the opportunity here is this is an extremely and highly visible movement that you can be a part of. And you'll be able to share how you can prioritize economic mobility, wealth building, and worker voice for low to moderate income heads of household. This is an opportunity to get a deeper understanding and share your experience on the strongest impact on upward mobility for workers, including employers and employees' needs and priorities. And we are emphasizing this for BIPOC-owned businesses as well as BIPOC employees, workers as well. So in this, you'll have an increased opportunity to access resources, to invest in programs, policies that all prioritize job quality and economic mobility for those businesses, but also for your internal staff for alignment purposes. You'll be able to increase your usage and access to these effective tools, really trying to uplift the use of these to support your clients. And this will be informed by the low-wage worker perspective, their priorities, and a deeper understanding of employer behavior and incentives that leads to adoption, as well as particular industries that are disproportionately affecting low-wage and BIPOC workers. Lastly, this, actually not lastly, but it will also increase alignment around a common understanding of what job quality principles are and how we define it overall. This is rooted in mobility barriers because the structural inequities emphasize highest need job quality practices that warrant high priority. And lastly, where it may be necessary, a part of this I'll talk to the convenings, but you'll be pre-approved for travel support expenses to be covered, as well as the engagements, any other costs that are attributed with that. Next slide. So now I will go into the details of the actual application. So here for the institution in itself, we, of course, would just like anyone who is primarily small and medium business size serving organizations, whether you are a NBDI, CDFI, or whatever that looks like. We are looking for individuals who hold leadership positions, who have the authority to make internal changes within their organizations to their programs and their services and have some sphere of influence overall. We are looking for footprint in some specific geographies. It is not a requirement, but it is a plus. Those areas are Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia, LA, Charleston. And this came about because of the research that we were doing. First, we prioritized the segments and the industries in which they were working, and then use that to leverage the locations where they can be most impactful in creating change. So that's why it's a preferred option, but not a necessity. And of course, we're looking for folks who have the capacity and the ability to share and engage in this at least 4 to 8 hours a month from now until September of next year. And that's for the institution as a whole. leading into the network, we're looking for folks that can demonstrate that they can find SMB clients and that they fit the criteria. So that criteria is we're looking for at minimum 10 employees to up to 1,000 full-time employees. We're looking for folks who are employing people who are less than 200% of the federal poverty line and are majority BIPOC, owned and serving. So we're looking for folks in that realm of sphere, and also hoping that you will be willing to participate and pilot and share tools and resources and data if needed with your network and your clients. We're looking for participants who can share out with their network to recruit these folks, to find small and medium business owners to participate in engaging in this as well, since it will be a collaborative not only with us, but with Pacific Community Ventures as well, and ultimately all of our anchor partners. And as this process is really heavy on research and evaluation, we really want to ensure that folks are willing and able to share data with their clients and services to provide their support for growth overall. And with that, I will get into the types of engagements that we will be doing. So for the next slide, we will start with good jobs convenings. So good job convenings, tongue twister there. So there will be 4 times that we will be collectively getting together. The first one will be virtual next month, and the remaining 3 will be in person. And these convenings will focus on defining a quality job, what that looks like, the metrics that Ebony had outlined, assessing how SMBs can shift their job quality practices, identifying their pain points, as well as figuring out how to adopt these further practices and align on the influence strategies that we'll put forward and suggest in this engagement. The second part of this is virtual webinars. So these will be just smaller group cohort trainings that will build off of the convenings. And this will be a way to get participants to solicit and share insights. We want to hear feedback from you all. This is a collective learning opportunity, and this is where we'll uplift some of the public goods, as well as get your insight on procurement experience, practice, adoption strategies, and therefore and so forth. The SMB and employer voice survey is the concurrent cohort for small business owners that will run parallel with this cohort. So this will be run by Pacific Community Ventures. This is where you recruit the 2 to 4 small business owners in the focal population to participate in these cohorts and work towards really learning the specific quality practices that the workers are prioritizing. And using that insight to figure out adaptability and work with employers and their employees, to implement some of these practices and figure out the feedback and how it's working, and consistently iterate over a shorter period of time within this longer engagement. The fourth is the evaluation and best practices. So of course, there will be surveys. We'll be providing metrics, tracking metrics to ensure that the SMB serving organizations are integrated into the public goods produced, that they're being used and how they're being applied and if they're effective. Looking at the best tools for specific audiences, the number of job quality of practices that are adopted, as well as the number of workers impacted and improved ultimately in the end. So we'll be looking at this and disaggregating this data by race, by gender, by business size, by job sector, and job quality principle. So there's a lot to unpack in this, and all the measurements for determining the alignment of these good job practices with economic mobility for workers overall. I know I just said a lot, and we covered a lot of information here. So with that, we are opening the floor up for Q&A, and I guess we can start with the items, or if there are any questions in the chat. And Okay, I see one question. Would the team mind reiterating the targets geos again in the chat? Sure, I can send those in there. But other than that, you guys can hop off your mic, unmute yourself. If you want to come on, you don't have to turn on your camera, or you can type it in the chat and we'll just give you guys a minute or two and answer your questions.
Hi there. This is Matthew with United Way Suncoast based in Tampa Bay, Florida. I know that you have the preferential geographic locations and communities that are mentioned in the comment you just shared. How much of an impact does it have for organizations like ours that aren't within those specific geographic areas?
Do you want to take this one, Ebony? Okay.
Looking for my mute. Thank you for the question. Right now, this is the thing. So we know that we knew that we were gonna get some requests from everywhere. I mean, even when we looked at our current partners, they're everywhere. The reason why I think it's important for you to understand why we even have the places is to first go back to the segments. And so we identified segments that were high proportions of the focus populations. So we knew not to think about the smaller businesses, like micro businesses, that's like 1 to 10, because they would have some issues and challenges around being able to scale this work, for so many reasons. But then when we were looking at SMBs, that's 10 to 100 FTE, then we went through a process to really think about, okay, where would we get our most impact? And we had a process of where we looked at businesses with good health. Where was some of the segments to implement job quality practices that may have been resource constrained when you think about segments. We also looked at things around where would business be more reachable and be able to influence through some of our existing partnerships as well as through some of our planned activities. And then we did another layer of assessment of really trying to think, okay, within these segments, where is it that we would have the highest impact potentially? And so that's where we looked at some financial data, business data, to really help us see where those high concentrations of these type of businesses was within the demographics of what we were prioritizing. And that's how we came to the places. And so I just wanted to provide that extra context. When it comes to how we will prioritize, I think it only becomes really a heavier lift if we get so many great applications that we really have to hone in on those areas. But I will say, with that, we definitely are looking at places who, for example, are working in rural communities. That might not be reflected within those places, but, rural communities are across the US. And also looking at your demographics of your clients that you serve too is also something that's going to have a heavier weight too. And looking at the type of industries that they're in, like if it aligns with where we're looking at and where we feel like we can have the most impact, the places, won't be out trumped, I'll say. So we're really honing in first on your SMB reach, your SMB, the demographics of your SMB would prioritize things before we get to the places. The places is like to have, but not must have. Thank you for your question.
All right, I see we have one more. Felicia, I see you. Yes, of course, Minneapolis can participate. She was a previous member in one of our cohorts, so happy to have you on this call. One of the other questions that popped up was, can we be more specific about the resources that will be available for participating businesses? And we need some help recruiting businesses so that our proposals to us are strong.
Is that 2 questions?
I think it's
No, it's not 2 questions. So my question to you is, can you be more specific about the resources that are available for participating businesses? And the reason why we need that is so that our proposals to you are strong. So I need to understand what is the package of resources that we're making available. So when we come to you and say, here are the opportunities for participating businesses, that's what I'm trying to sort of connect the dots to. It's unclear to say that there are resources, and it's not clear what those resources are quite yet.
Got it. So let me free you up a little bit. We will provide the resources.
But what are, okay, great.
Yeah, we will provide the resources, but I will say this, if you're interested in one of the resources that we'll be talking about, and definitely socializing, is one by our partner Pacific Community Ventures. They do have a Good Jobs toolkit that's available on their website. So that is like the type of tools that we're looking at. We also, you know, of course, there's, like I said earlier, there's a lot of tools and resources out here. We have been going through a process of really trying to filter out the ones that we think that would be the most useful given our demographics, as well as what has showed to be really a good use to organizations. And so I don't want to say what those are yet, because we're just finalizing those things. The other thing I will say is, throughout this whole program, we will be going through, we have other researches that's happening too. And so throughout this project, there will be other resources and tools that will come into play that we will actually want to get your eyes on. For example, we're in the process of building out an employee scorecard. That's one of the things that has not been, it's definitely in the development stage, but we want to be able to utilize you, and potentially your SMBs clients, to really get our eyes on it, and to be a thought partner, and to really feed into the final development of that product. So we're not expecting you to come into this with, oh, these are all the great things to know about. It's more so, I think what would make a strong application is, are you already kind of thinking about this? If so, to what extent? Are you already utilizing some good job practices within, let's say, your technical assistance? Because one of the reasons why, one of the good benefits of working with SMB serving organizations is that they're typically providing some type of technical assistance. So, you know, we're really trying to be able to strengthen your toolbox of what you're providing. So I think if you already have a foot in this a little bit, I think that would make your case a little bit stronger. But at the same time, we're also trying to expand this, you know. So, you know, it's really around, for me, not necessarily what's your current engagement in this space, but more so, again, what is your interest level on doing this? What is your energy around not only thinking about this for your clients, but also your business, as well as your SMB reach, because we definitely want them to be part of this process. And so we're going to reach SMBs through you guys. And then also, I would say, your ability to be able to bring in networks, because one of the things we're going to do is really try to elevate and scale a lot of the products, tools, and messaging once we get those things finalized through your partnership. And so really going to be leaning on you to help us to get this information out, and to bring in others to be able to help move people from like awareness up to really thinking about how to implement some of these practices that we're discussing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I see a lot of stuff in chat, but I can't really see what it is.
Yeah, we have one more. Would tribes be eligible?
If they have a 501c3, I think that's the only thing. That's a good question. I would say submit. I think I want to say the only criteria we have is 501(c)(3).
Yeah, it's really open. We're looking to see how y'all are envisioning this with your services, how you might use your TA services to help support this and uplift this, what services you offer at all. So this isn't a hard and fast type of requirement. Any more questions, comments, concerns? Follow-up question. Is it essential that all business owners recruited for the cohort be BIPOC? What about women and low income?
No, women is actually one of our target groups that we want to be able to impact. So definitely not. The other thing too, I think Joelle mentioned it earlier, it's not just BIPOC owned or BIPOC owners. It's also small to medium-sized businesses who are employing a lot of individuals of color, because they are the ones that are most likely to not have a lot of these opportunities that we're talking about. They are most likely to be, for example, frontline workers. And so definitely not just BIPOC. We're just really trying to think about some of the additional potential considerations that we may need to have for them to be able to embark on this journey. But the ultimate impact that we want to make is with individuals of color and low income individuals. Thank you for your question. I'm happy to clarify that.
All right, we have another question. What's the timeline for when organizations will be contacted on if they were approved or not? And I believe, so the application is due April 5th. So within the next 5 to 7 business days, you would be notified. And there's another follow-up question. Would you accept a joint venture between a 501(c)(3) that serves low to moderate income communities and a for-profit that has SMB clients? There's a little overlap between clients, business owners, and employees.
I have a question. Is there a reason why you both wouldn't want to submit?
And Ingrid, you're welcome to come off mute if you'd like to comment.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if the for-profit would be able
Gotcha.
to submit separately. There is some overlap in work that the two entities do from time to time that serve both of those communities that this is looking to get clients in for.
Got it. Right. As I was asking a question, it dawned on me why you asked the question. Yes, we would.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Are you focused on upward mobility positions that lead to management of a location or branches?
Are you, I have a follow-up question. Are you referring to like just one of the good job practices?
Here, I think you're looking for the unmute. Nope, still can't hear you just yet. If
Well, I think they're talking about one of the practices which we're not defining like what that looks like for every organization or and company. We definitely want to make sure that there's some employment pathways that's available that employees know about. But what that look like for every business, of course, may look different. But definitely want to think about how folks can move into upward management positions is definitely a good factor to look at.
Okay, I'm sorry, Stephanie, still can't hear you, but I hope you got most of that answer. Can you shake your head? Yes, did you hear it or no? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, quick recap. It's not the only thing that we're looking for in a job quality strategy or practice, but it is one of the tools in which a small business could use in order to apply it. But it's not the only.
No, there's many good job standards that we're thinking about. If we go back to the slide that was provided, and if you want to look it up too, is I probably should have mentioned this earlier. The good jobs definition that we're going by was developed by the Aspen Institute. But you know, thinking about career ladders, that's definitely something that's part of the definition.
Next question is for the SMBs that are recruited, what is their commitment to the program? Is it the same 4 to 8 hours monthly?
So I can't go into the SMBs themselves because that's actually going to be a separate pilot that's going to be running the same time by the Pacific Community Ventures. And so I'm not the person to answer that question right now. But believe me, if you were to participate with us, you would definitely have that information.
All right. Anyone else? Come one, come all?
Well, as people are thinking about maybe some final questions, one of the things I just want to quickly lift up is that I'm not sure if you guys all received the latest email that went out today, but our deadline has been extended to Friday, April 5th. So that definitely gives you some more time to be able to get an application in to us. And the other thing that I would like to just quickly say is that Prosperity Now, we are also preparing for our summit that's going to be taking place September 4th through the 6th here in Washington, D.C. at the National Harbor. And so definitely put this on your calendar. We are definitely doing open registrations right now and excited to be able to bring all of the stakeholders available who really care about economic wealth building strategies. And so would love to have you all be with us. And hopefully some of you even put in some applications for our concurrent sessions. That deadline just ended yesterday, actually. And so we got a wealth of sessions that we have to go through, more than it's going to make it hard for us, but really hard. But, you know, really excited that we got the results that we did. But yes, I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of these two things. And I'm actually going to come off camera for the last little bit, just in case. I feel like we are. Uh-oh, that's not what I was supposed to do.
Well, I think we might be able to end this a little bit early. I don't see any other questions popping up right now. But if you do have questions, you can always send an email to the email address that's referenced in the application. We can answer your questions there if you have any additional ones. And for those who maybe arrived late to this Q&A, this will be posted on Prosperity Now's YouTube page. And if you would like a copy of the slides, you can feel free to send a request to that same email address and we will share that out as well. But I hope everyone here applies. Would love to see as many as possible. And if not, if you do not get selected, do not worry. There will still be other opportunities to engage into the larger network and have a larger conversation. So you can still stay involved regardless. And with that,